Welcome to 2022. You made it. You made it to 2022. And to say congratulations, to say thank you, we're starting off this year with Ed Latimore, the mighty Ed Latimore, who I first met as a writer, as a Twitter growth expert, but who you may have also heard of as being a pro boxer, retired guy, who also writes about chess, physics sometimes, sobriety, mindset, a guy who can outmath your math and outwrite your writing and outfight you in a boxing ring. Now, why are we starting off 2022 with Ed Latimore? It's because he does all these things and they've brought him huge success, over 165,000 Twitter followers. How does someone with a huge number of opportunities in front of him organize what to think about? I don't know what business you're in, but I know that how well you focus on the handful of things that will best drive your success will determine whether a year from now, when you're walking to 2023, you feel like, oh man, I rocked that last year. Or you're feeling like, wow, I got distracted. I didn't make serious progress in any area, and I just feel like a failure. It's that ability to focus that we're going to dive into here on this call with Ed. Now, last week we talked with Ajax about how your narrative shapes your reality. If you didn't listen to that, after this talk with Ed, go back, listen to the interview with Ajax. That's how we wrapped up 2021. From this interview with Ed, you're going to come out of it with a better understanding of how to focus on what to focus on. Now, Ed and I just started talking, we started recording this, so we're just going to go hop on in to the middle of our conversation. And one last thing, if you want help focusing on what matters this year, and if you're a small business in the 5 or 6 figures looking to go be in a community of people that help drive your revenue forward, check out my membership at joinredbeard.com. The Redbeard Accelerator is where I help members go get their first $10,000 month or get consistent $10,000 months. And for folks who are already there, I help you work on your systems to go build your business up further from there. That's all at joinredbeard.com. Now let's check in on Ed Latimore and let's help you figure out how you're going to be more focused this year.
I look at fighting in that same regard because that was such a significant part of my life for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not. And it was kind of it was completely my choice. I didn't, that's why I only have one loss. A lot of guys, you can tell it wasn't their choice to leave because they'll have a bunch of losses.
Mm-hmm.
I just left, and now I can just focus on other things that I'm good at, other gifts, and I find this life is a lot more enjoyable. Not that like being a fighter didn't have its perks, but no, it didn't have any perks. What am I talking about? It had benefits. That's the best way to say it, and I got a lot of benefits out of it. But would not go back and do it again. You couldn't pay me enough to train and be a fighter full time. I'm just too interested in other things. I don't even want to do it part time. Like I don't go to the gym unless. I don't even go to the gym. Like I used to hit the bag to work out, but like now my time's so valuable. I'd rather go right down the road. There's a Planet, was LA Fitness, like 15 minutes away. Go run the treadmill or go hit the trail and run and lift some weights, and that's good because I'm not training to fight. So
yeah, that's fascinating. I spent a decade with the wooden weapons, simulating swords, knives, spears, that sort of thing, and so I spent a lot of time on the using edged weapons, and then I've been training with shooting for about 15 years. So I know something about that. And then I started doing jiu-jitsu just before the pandemic, and I stopped when that started. So I have just enough to, under like 2 months of training, understand like I don't know anything. And so I'm excited about getting back into that now that I just got married. So now I'm in my, okay, what is life going to look like? And it's, okay, I need to train that hand-to-hand, close-up, bad breath distance. Because I can see that edge of myself as a fighter is by far weaker than you put a sword in my hand, give me a gun. Okay, we got something. But bad breath distance, I am weak as a man. And so I'm 37. I'm going to be starting training.
And then you're never too late because one day you'll be 50. And if you stick with it, by that time you have a black belt. You'll be one of the, not a lot of black belts. Everybody wants to be a black belt. It takes a long time.
No one wants to pay the work to be a black belt. One of my mentors, Wes Schaefer, he's a Air Force guy, and then outside of the Air Force, a pilot there, and then started his business. And he's about a decade older than me, and he has 6 kids. runs his business, maybe 7 kids now, and also trains jiu-jitsu about 6 days a week. And he's, he's just one of those guys who's very serious. And I admire him a lot. He's one of the best sales trainers I know. He's always the guy I say, if someone has a sales training problem, it's always, go get some of Wes Schaefer stuff. He'll set you right. And he's just like, he's 10 years older than me. And then here's the crazy thing, Ed, Charles Gaudet, another friend of mine, about 10 years older than me. He has 3 kids. He trains jiu-jitsu really regularly. And there's these guys, like, what's my excuse? If these guys are 10 years older than me with way more successful businesses than mine, who are amazing in the areas they're amazing in, there's no excuses.
Yeah, I think we learn, or not learn. I mean, I was listening to. I was trying to figure out how to say this. I'll just say the way I heard it and then riff off of that. I listened to Lewis Howes' School of Greatness podcast, and he had a guy on, Rory Vaden, who wrote this book, Take It to Stairs. And one of the quotes I took from it, and I put it out on Twitter today and on my Facebook, is that our brains are not wired for success; they're wired for survival. And survival is all about conserving energy, and that's what any efficient organism does. It tries to conserve energy, while success is about going further and expending a lot more energy than is necessary to accomplish said goal. And so what we have to do a lot of times is we have to rewire our brain to be like, okay, and up our energy level, because we're capable of so much more than we know. We're capable more than survival. That's kind of how this wonderful society and this technology we use exists, that someone had an idea that was beyond survival. Because if we just stayed at the status quo survival, we'd still be hunting fucking elephants with spears, and it would be, that's what it would be. But it's not that. Now you go to the supermarket, or you don't even go to the supermarket. You can order on an app from your phone. You don't have to open your computer, which you couldn't do 20 years ago. And so, yeah, that is the whole idea. And so when you look at these people who are doing more than is necessary to survive, but really to thrive and have success, then you go, okay, what is stopping me from doing that?
And what do they see that I don't? That while I look back at my younger self and I think, man, that guy, what was he thinking? And when I look back, I can see the difference 10 years makes. And then I look forward and I say, well, what are the guys who are 10 years older than me? They have kids. Their businesses are 10 years farther along. What do they see that I don't? And I probably can't experience it, or I can't get it just in the way that talking to 10 years ago me, who was in the middle of his fighting career, that guy couldn't actually listen. If I tried to tell him what was going on, he probably wouldn't listen, right? He could get it a little bit though. And so I have these role models that it feels like 10 years. There's something magical about that. And it could just be because I know there's really 3 guys that are I call them aspirational mentors. And I've gone to be involved, work with them, or take classes from them, or be colleagues with all 3 of them. So I know them a little bit. And I admire them. They're men who are strong in their convictions. They prioritize their families in beautiful ways. They're very successful in business, and they take very serious care of their bodies. Where there's the 2 guys who do jiu-jitsu. The third one, have you heard of the Eco Challenge over in Fiji?
No, I have not.
So it's apparently Eco Challenge was a big deal before you and I were around, where it's an adventure race, multi-day adventure race. And my third guy on that list, Daniel Bushis, he went and did the Eco Challenge. I think it was last year or 2 years ago now, where they're reimagining the franchise. And so it's something like 4 days if you're fast, but 7 days is the cutoff point, where you're traveling. You're both open water, kayaking across Fiji, climbing mountains, going through canyons, everything that these islands have to offer. And the people who are the most serious about it, this is all on Amazon, is where the show is. You're just pushing yourself vastly beyond the average person's breaking point. And he participated in that. He didn't win. Didn't last past the first day, because it turns out the hardest race in the world is really hard. Did you know?
Yeah.
he's doing that while he's also running a really successful business, and also is family oriented. And so I look at these guys and think, wow, okay, who are they, and why is it that they have what I want and who I want to be, and how can I extrapolate from them into what I now in my late 30s should be doing to be that guy in my late 40s. And 10 years, like 20 years, 30 years, that seems to be a bit too far. Maybe conditions have changed too much in what the world looks like, but 10 years feels like the sweet spot. This, I can aspire to it, but it's not so clear. So I'm curious for you, Ed, when you look up at people and you say, I want to be like that guy, or I want to have what that guy has, how far ahead in your life are you looking?
I'm not looking. I mean, I look at what I. Okay, so first I kind of determine what I want, and I've done that in pretty much all the domains that I'm trying to accomplish. I know what my income goal is. I kind of know what my profession goal is, and what I want to do there, and I know how I want to make the money. I mean, pretty much, spoiler alert. I want to by 40 be able to make at least what I make now on purely passive, like ideally from only investment, but from sales on my site, whatever, purely passive income, okay, and sales on my book. So I go, who has done what I've done and or what I'm trying to do at any phase of their life. I never consider or think about the age of the person. I simply look at what they have done. And like, for example, my author goals, I look at two guys who I both have the ability to kind of reach out and touch and look at, and they're at very different points, but I kind of see what's possible for different reasons. One being James Clear, the other being Adam Smith. And James Clear is, the name behind Atomic Habits, and one of the cool things he did is he put my name in that book, and every now and still at least once a month, someone's like, "Oh, cool to see your name in there. I know you, right?" But it's watching how James built his site and how he developed and wrote the book and how he launched it and some of the things he did. I said, okay, I can do that. I looked at he and I said, okay, that doesn't look impossible. He's just been doing it longer. To a lesser extent, I don't really know Mark at all, but Mark Manson, same idea. I kind of look at those two guys and I go, well, they're kind of the prototype. They had the website, then they wrote the great book, then they got a great marketing team. Okay, I can do this because I've seen them do it. I just know it took them, 10 to 15 years. I'm in year 8 of writing on my site, 9 really. But so I go, okay, so by the time I'm 40, that should be possible, right? And then I look at what Adam Lane Smith does, who's a smaller fiction writer, but he's just got this incredible output. And he doesn't. I think he's got a lot to learn about marketing, and he will do that. But in terms of being able to just put out the fiction and build an audience around that, I think that's so cool. So I go, okay, that's a guy that has what those are the guys that have what I want, like in a professional sense. I want to write. And also, I look at another guy I look at a lot and see what he's done just in a really short amount of time in the market. That those are the things I'm learning now. Freaking learning simultaneously crypto and the traditional market. I look at Chris Johnson and I go, okay, well, Chris has been doing this for a while and learned a lot, but I'm going to, I'm fortunate that I made a connection. I made a friend in that guy. He answers my text. From what I understand, he's not really the most responsive guy to messages, but I can message him and he'll answer. So these are guys that I can look at and see, okay, this is what they're doing. If I need, some ideas of what to do, I can ask and then get around. But knowing what I'm trying to accomplish and then looking and finding people who have done it and I try and pick it apart, that's all I do. I know, 40 is probably when I'll start making some significant life changes. Like 40 is probably like when I'll start having kids or when I'll probably like semi-permanently relocate, maybe a little earlier than that. Probably pick up a property or something. But when we start making those life changes, I like to have my things done by then. So that's what am I? Oh, that's damn, I'm younger than I think. You know, you ever get to a point where you like, when you're younger, you always forget that you're 1 year behind. And now at this age where I keep putting myself at 37, I've been doing it the whole year. I'm not 37, I'm 36, right? And I have to remember, I have like 3.5 years to get there, and I think I can do it that quickly. I kind of have to. You know, Elon Musk has this great quote where he goes, take your 10-year plan and try to accomplish it in 6 months. You'll probably fail, but you'll learn more about yourself
Yeah.
way faster than you could have done any other way.
I look at so I'm 37, so we're basically the same age. And I look at the last year of my life where as we're recording this episode's going live. This episode's going live at the first thing of 2022, but we're recording it here in October. And in the last year, I got engaged, got married, got another house and moved. Just so much has happened in this time. My garden is now bigger than my old house, square footage wise. It's one of these that can't be. But so you're talking about goals here, and I think, that I both constantly feel behind, like I'm not nearly as far as I want to be, and then I also look both around me, but also at what my parents were able to do by a certain age. And because I grew up with my parents, and obviously they're my parents, so they told stories of, back when we were at this particular age. And I can look at, okay, what was my dad doing when he was my age? And how does my level of success in any area of life compare to that? Okay, that's interesting. But then I have my dreams of, here's where I want to be. Here's where I want to be. And it's so easy to get down on myself about I'm not really very successful. I'm not, I could have done better at that. I could have done better at this. And it's that comparison to where other people are at. And I want to dig in, Ed, in this interview into one of your superpowers from what I see from the outside. And for folks who don't know, Ed teaches a lot about Twitter. And I was doing 75 Hard this last summer, where it involves, in my case, a lot of rowing. I spent a lot of hours, rowed 300 kilometers over the course of these 75 days. And Ed, you were my companion on a significant amount of that because I was listening to your Twitter Growth Pack videos.
Oh, no kidding. Nice.
you were, more than anyone else, you were the person who was hanging out with me as I was on this bloody rowing machine day after day, whether I was hurting or not, tired or not. I only stopped rowing for a couple times as I hurt my shoulder throughout the 75 days with no rest days. But it was listening to the re-up and then some of your other videos. And so I just go up there and just turn on the rowing machine, turn on Ed, and go and upgrade my brain about Twitter and how to communicate as I was rowing morning after morning. So I feel like I've spent a lot more time around you than we've actually spent. But as I look at your body of work and the things you come out with this year with the templates and other projects, I think you are in the top 1% of ability to say no to the right things.
Well, I'm getting a lot better at it.
I think we're all getting better at it. You just have a demonstrable ability, because I know that you couldn't put out the quantity and the quality and the precision of content you do without saying no, because you get all these opportunities. And I'm really curious. Here we are. We're starting 2022, even though we're not there yet as we're recording. But I feel like for everyone listening, last week we had on Alexander Cortez talking about personal narratives and how you move in the world, what kind of body you have, and the narrative you tell yourself are all one thing. And we talked a lot about me and mountain climbing last week, and how I tell myself story around being a mountain climber and how I say no to other things, and what I'm saying yes to really changes that. And who would I be if I really embodied that mountain climber? We discussed that in great detail last week. Go ahead and listen if you've not already. But today, at the start of the year, we're talking about how do you say no to things. And that's, Ed, what I want to understand better is, you're getting better at it. We're all trying to get better at it. But you get so many opportunities and you say no to almost all of them. How does that work inside your brain? How do you prioritize? How do you just lay us out? Is there a book on this that you're going to write about how to say no like Ed?
Oh man, I wish. Let me tell you what I've because I have to admit, I mean, I've gotten a lot better at this, but wasn't always. And as I get better, what's made a big difference? Well, one of the things that's made a really big difference is I've identified where I am really good. Like where if you're going to beat me, you really have earned it. And at that level, we probably just do better working together anyway. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people think. The bottom is where, if you consider like success in any endeavor like a pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is where most people are. That's where the competition is. When you get to the top, there ain't a lot of people there, and they don't really have incentive to do battle with one another because they both lose a lot. They have a lot more incentive to work together, right? So the best way to get to that point is just an incredibly focused machine on what you're good at. And then I figured out, what I'm good at. I am a good writer. People have been trying to get me to do podcasts, to start my own channel for a long time. And I'm probably not bad at it. But I know I have a goal to reach with my writing output, which is I'd like to get to 100,000 purely organic visitors per month on my website. That's significant, right? And until I get there, what's the point in diluting my focus on other things? All right. Now maybe I jump start and switch off a little earlier, and I probably will. But my point of bringing that up is that writing is my strength. So now I'm focused. So now I made a product about making money online. It wasn't nearly as successful as my products about writing and growing on Twitter. Why? Because I don't really care about making money online. I just thought it might be an interesting thing to try and teach what I know. But I'm really passionate about communication and really understanding how to take what's in my head and get it into your head with as little resistance as possible. And so I write about it and I teach that. Okay. So identifying, what your natural strength is, and then play into it and really becoming a dominant force in that area. That's really allowed me to ignore a lot of offers for people, and they're never really offers, because people look at, when you have my reach, it's almost never an offer, at least not in the proper way. A lot of times it's, man, you got this audience, let me work with you and we can make some money. I'm like, man, I'm already making money. What do you offer me besides a time suck? And that's kind of the deal. So you do that really helps. In fact, if you just did that, that's probably gonna eliminate a lot of stuff. And I actually didn't learn that. I come up with that on my own. Dave Perel, who's a great writer and a great friend. Me, him, and two other guys were set to do a project together, and then Dave came in and said, I'll help you guys out for free, but I don't want to do any part of this for money because I'm too busy with my own thing. And it really has panned out great for him. So yeah, focus on, just pick something and focus and try to figure that out. Also, you have to be cognizant of where you're at, because I sincerely believe this, and this will somewhat contradict maybe the ideas and points we're going to discuss and bring up. But when you're first starting out, you need to say yes to as many things as possible. I mean, you really do, because you don't have any leverage. The minute someone goes, you have made it, let me work with you, unless you have a really good reason. And by work with you, I mean, and not just like work with you, but even podcast, whatever, being on somebody's show. Whenever those come up, and you need to just hop on them all. I actually had a policy for a while where I didn't care. I didn't do any research. I didn't do any screening. If you reached out to me to be on your show, I'd be on your show. Ended up on a lot of podcasts who had only one episode, and I was their first episode. But I also ended up making some powerful allies. Like I was on Dave Perel's podcast when David Perel wasn't anybody at all. But now I'm now I got a link to a site that's got a freaking like damn near 70 domain, and Dave himself was growing. And on top of that, I got to meet him in Austin. And now he's about to like consult me on some stuff for free, right? But because you never know where these opportunities are going to lead. But when you're first starting, you don't have the luxury of sorting them out. Now, I can honestly say, right, if it was right now, but Dave was, I'm right now, but Dave was like, where he was then, and he reached out. I mean, I might. I mean, it depends on the pitch, you know. And then I'll go, But now what I tell guys, once you have 30 guys, talk to me. I'll come on. But that's how I discern and cipher my time and make sure it's taken care of correctly. But yeah, when you're first starting out, this advice is not really for you. But as you get a little more established and you're at the point where you would be, and here's you're at the point where you are like where you feel like you might need to turn it down because it's a feel. I can't, there's no way to like teach exactly when. Once you have that, then then it's time to chill out and start to focus.
Let me ask you this. When you think about how much of your energy goes into projects of questionable ROI, which is to say it's not someone really famous asking you on, it's the people who like, this might be worth it. Do you have a set amount of time that you dedicate to those questionable ROI projects? Or is it more just a gut feel? Like, do you say like, I will spend 2 hours a week on engaging with people who are not famous yet? Or is it more just a gut feel?
No, it's neither, man. Because one of the gifts I think I have, and I didn't think this was a gift, but the further along you go, you realize there's some things that people just don't do or can't do en masse. For example, I used to think that planning for the future was just a common thing. Like you would consider what would happen if you did this and then the person did something back. Like, but apparently people just think about if I do this. And I used to think that was common, but it's not. But one of the things that I think I have a really big understanding of and has really helped me is the power of a network, and not just the power of a network, but I treat everyone on social media unless they really push me, and even then I'll just block you, and you're probably not the kind of person I want to deal with anyway. I treat everyone well and with manners and with humor. I treat everyone the same, and I even go out of my way to like correct myself if they took something I said the wrong way. All right. I say this to say when you're in the space that I'm in, which is trying to grow an audience and trying to grow this network, because this is the rhythm. I mean, Twitter is the most powerful networking tool in the world. Anybody who goes to an Ivy League for networking, I'm like, yeah, I'll show you my DMs, and you tell me, you tell me if your network that you're going to meet at this Ivy League school is more powerful. And
best flex of the year, folks.
Well, and it's true. Some of the people you meet and connect with. I mean, this is just a new world. I mean, either you adapt to it or not. But part of that adaptation, at least from my perspective, is you really don't know who you're talking to. There have been guys that don't have any followers. I mean, not a lot of followers, and true millionaires. But if you approach everybody correctly and you continue and you make a good impression, guys will reach out to you, guys will talk to you. You just don't. No, I was in Portugal, and this guy messaged me, and he's like, "Yeah, I see you and your girl over here in Europe, and I'm gonna be out of town for like a month. So if you want to stay in my house in Malta, man, just come on down and let me know. The only problem is you got to drive on the other side of the road here." And I was like, I can't actually right now, but thank you for this offer. And that's just the kind of stuff that pops up. And the type of friends you meet, the type of connections you make, the place you get plugged into, at the very least, treating everyone well. Now, whether you invest significant time in them, in these conversations, well, I don't use social media like that anyway, right? To me, it's very much a connection. It's first and foremost, it's a connection tool because I believe people are the most important thing, and then from there, it's a way to promote my work and my products. But I give value. I really believe that if you read my stuff, you'll be a little better. That's the hope. Like that's why I'm rage post. That's why I'm post about politics. I've made almost zero posts about the pandemic, because that's not what I'm here for. It's all about connection and building up people. You follow that rule, you'll know when somebody's wasting time you also be able. I'm also very good if I do feel like somebody's just kind of being a mooch of my time. I've come up with polite ways to check them. Cause I mean, I keep my DMs open for a reason. I mean, at
Hmm.
162,000 people, a lot of people message you,
Yeah.
and then most of them aren't being asses, and most of them aren't wasting time. But occasionally you get somebody you got to block, and occasionally you get somebody you got to remind that you have a fee for consultation if you really want to pick my brain for
Hmm.
real and be focused.
Yeah, it's an interesting rule for DMing people on Twitter is that the more followers they have, the shorter my DMs to them are about just like, okay, here's a 10-word sentence. Do you want to hear more? And so they can ignore you really, really fast. So you're taking less of their time, right? Because the
Yeah,
overwhelm is just huge.
yeah, it's really incredible because the what people have to remember, and I make a joke about this whenever I achieve a milestone. I go, I'm a C-level celebrity or something like that, or like a D+ level celebrity. I'm always being silly and tongue in cheek, but the reality is that the average man, forget average, most people don't have the amount of people aware of them that I have aware of me. But with that comes humility because a lot of my friends are people that have two or three times as many
Yep.
followers and as big of a presence as I have.
Yeah.
Granted, we're still in leagues above the average human, but that doesn't there's a bunch of people that still ain't heard of me. They have no idea who I am. It's just that more regular people, more people know who I am than a regular person, and with that comes a certain level of inherent drain on your attention if you don't defend it. And I'm very
Ooh,
good at
that's a good one.
I'm very good at defending it. I try to stay on. I don't use the internet. I think in a way that as a consumer, I use it as a producer.
Well, that's part of your sobriety thing, uh, is because you've already gone through a sobriety process in regards to one kind of drug that you are in a better position to recognize some of those behaviors and really discipline yourself in regards to others. When I did the 75 hard thing, I did no added sugar for 75 days. I only
Oh
had honey,
goodness.
maple. Oh, it was crazy. I'm not a big guy. I lost the pant size. None of my pants fit anymore. My belt has to be on its tightest setting still. And it's now a month and a half ago is when I finished that. But no added sugar and that discipline, once you see that, like, okay, what are my excuses that are left in my life for anything? If I can actually cut added sugar out of my life for 2.5 months, then what's my excuse for anything? It's like Jocko says, all your excuses are lies. But once you actually live it for yourself in any domain, then it immediately becomes evident, well, why am I not lifting as much as I want to? Or why is my garden not as tidy? Or why is my whatever? It's everywhere. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything, as the phrase goes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big believer in that. Um, as I'm not doing 75 hard. I fought for 12 years and got a degree in physics. Man, my life is already sufficiently challenging, but I understand the point. And one of the things that these disciplines have taught me, I'm actually writing a speech on this that I'm giving uh in 3 weeks, well, nearly two, really. But once you figure out kind of a general approach to something, then you're able to apply that general approach to other things. Of course, the specifics will vary. Like I talk about a lot. I have articles about this as well, about how my development in boxing is what ultimately gave me the blueprint and kind of the confidence to go after a degree in physics when I had like the worst math scores as a in in high school. And that's
That's not what
significant.
one usually thinks of as the right preparatory practice. So have bad math scores and then get hit in the head a lot. Like that's not what I think of as now let's go study physics.
Yeah, but it worked out well, and it's how I approach everything now, how I approach chess, how I approach my foreign language acquisition, and it's because I did one thing one way, and I didn't know that's what you had to do to succeed in boxing. All I knew is that I wasn't going to quit, and that got me
Hmm.
in the door. That's it. All it did was get me. In fact, it just got me into it. It didn't even give me a seat at the game. You know, I'm still in line at the concession stand, or still in line at the ticket booth. You know, before I can even get in. But that's how you get in, knowing that it's going to take some work, and then being willing to do the work. And then if you do the work and you're able to self reflect and pull out of things, and see, okay, I kept practicing this. I understood how to break these things down. Now I know what to do for my own development in other areas. Then I can take that. I know what it took to learn how to jab. I know what to develop the footwork. Uh, I know how to learn how to study myself and study tape. How to be, that teaches you how to be self-critical, which is unbelievably important if you want to learn anything. One of the things I'm picking up right now in chess is you got to be able to understand what the computer is telling you, because the computer can't tell you. All it can do is tell you what the move it would have made, right? And the continuation, you need to be able to look at the continuation and understand what the general idea is, because humans and computers don't see chess the same way, though top level humans come to the same conclusion as like computers. Okay. And you have to go, okay, why? And since most of us don't have access to a top level player, but we all have access to Stockfish Komodo, the two big chess engines, have to look at that engine and go, okay, you're telling me this, why? And that is that self-correction. That's understanding enough to know when you're incorrect. Math is the same way. If I'm working through a problem, I get an answer, I need to go, it shouldn't be negative. And then that's just like an example. Or if I remember, not I remember, I mean, just recently, I decided to like finally figure out the imperative in Spanish. But now that I know like the general rule, I can spot it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Whenever I see the verb is got an ending that it's not supposed to have, that might not be a mistake, and that's kind of why they make a big deal about getting the right endings, because you are saying something completely different. If you do,
Yeah.
it's no longer a conjugation. It's off. It's actually a command, and that might not mean what you think it means. So that's cool. I mean, they're just different steps and different ideas. But the point of all this, to bring it home, is how you do one thing is how you do everything else. But it's that approach, man. Like that approach and what you're trying to get out of it. That's like the general idea. If you can, my goal was always to improve the process. And so in everything I do, I try to improve the process.
I'm going to ask a question. I bet I already know the answer to, based on what you said about writing versus podcasting for your own business. Do you play Go?
No.
Yep.
I do not.
I figured that, because Go is its own thing, right? My brother's a serious Go player, trains all the time. He knows what his current score is with however they measure Go scores, which for folks who don't know, Go is in the same class of things as chess. It's one of those games that is simple, but people spend their whole lives perfecting it because it's incredibly deep and there's whole cultures around playing Go. So you don't study Go, but some folks might say, Ed, how can you consider yourself a serious person? Yeah, you're good at chess, but if you don't play Go, then you're not really well-rounded. What would you say to that?
I have no interest in Go. I mean, that's I don't know, because that's so interesting that like, I mean, okay, so no, I don't get it. Because once you do anything different, once you step out and really put your mind to something difficult. I mean, I'm trying to think of the areas where I would be comfortable saying I am at least an intermediate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be boxing, that would be mathematics, that would be physics, that would be Spanish language, that would be SEO, that would be writing, right? These are fairly disparate areas. Certainly not a lot of commonalities, and I don't know how one becomes more well-rounded. I mean, than that, because what I try to do is I try to invest my energy into skills. Like the next skill I'm going to be learning is learning how to do technical analysis of charts. I got this book right here and everything, and that's just, it's a headache. But it's another skill. I don't I don't need to be well rounded by someone else's definition, because I think by most people's definitions, I'm fairly well rounded.
I want to call something out here. Just for folks listening, as you're thinking about what are you going to do with your year, with your 2022, now that you're here. What we're saying here is that my brother could smoke Ed Latimore at Go, and Ed Latimore does not care. Right?
Not at all.
You don't care. It doesn't matter to you because it's not the game you're playing. If my brother could smoke you at chess, you'd start to care. But, my brother's casual at chess like I am. So you're very selective, even as you have these disparate things. In each one, you're going for, you can't smoke me easily. And let me tell you a story. When I started fighting, I quickly realized I was total crap. And not just total crap, but like embarrassingly didn't know how to do anything total crap. And I thought, okay, I want to get to where the mid-level fighters, they're still going to beat me all the time because I'm a novice. But if by the end of the first year, mid-level fighters, it takes them at least a few seconds to beat me, which in sword fighting, if there's a complete new person, you just walk through them. There's no resistance. And I thought, I want to get to where there's at least a little bit of resistance. And I don't know if I got there in year one, but I eventually got to where a mid-level fighter, there was some resistance. And then I was learning how to command teams, which we have, 10 versus 10 or 100 versus 100. And I thought, and my teacher was one of the best generals there was in the nation. I thought, I want to get to where if I'm facing anybody except for my teacher, who's one of the best, and the teams are remotely even, I win.
You got it, yeah.
Most of the time. And if I'm facing my teacher, I want to win at least some of the time. And I got there. It was like, okay, but it took years. And I was never a master. I got solidly intermediate, like you're talking about. But let me tell you, I was never the best dagger fighter. I was never the best pike fighter. I was never the best sword fighter. I was never the best glaive fighter. I was never the best archer. There's all these things that there was individual people who were really good. Like Derek with the dagger was really good. And Michael with his sword, like he was one of the best swordsmen we had. So, but I was following the path of generalship and being okay. Like I wanted some degree of mastery at leading the team. And I was settled for a solid intermediate. I was a solid guy to have in the pike line. Wasn't one of the pike gods who could do anything, fight anybody. Those people existed, and we have them on our team sometimes. But so it's this, I'm not going to worry that Derek's going to smoke me 100 out of 100 fights. Derek wins all of them with a dagger. All of them. And I wasn't going to let it bother me too much. I needed to not be terrible. So I needed to have someone who is not nearly as good as Derek. Like, they can't just walk through me. So it's fascinating taking this idea of you just don't care about Go. And I'm thinking about what are the things we can ignore. And when I was leading a rope team on Mount Rainier, it's a 2-mile vertical climb to get to the top of this mountain. Leading a rope team, which means I have 3 people on my rope, and I'm not leading the whole climb. That's someone else with their rope team, but I'm responsible for my 3 humans plus myself. And one of my climbers was Kimber, and she was born with no right hand, just a stump, and she has her left hand. One-handed climber, which when I heard we were going to have a one-handed climber, I thought, what in the world? That's insane. But she'd passed the basic climbing class, and I thought, well, fair enough. I don't know how you could possibly do that one-handed, but she did, so okay. And I got to know her on this 3-day climb at this time where she was at the very beginning of her climbing journey. And I got to see her as she was still a novice transitioning into intermediate. And now she's at master level, where she's the cover girl of Mountaineers magazine, where Petzl custom makes prosthetics for her go ice climbing.
No kidding.
She climbs up frozen waterfalls. She's insane. Kimber Bell on Instagram. I knew her when she was transitioning from, I think I'll just go do this, to now she's a master, travels all over. And you know what Kimber does is she focuses. You follow her Instagram, you'll see she's either at work or she's training year round. And I admire and I'm almost a bit jealous of her complete focus. She doesn't also keep chickens. She doesn't also garden. She's not also a marksmanship instructor. She doesn't also run a business. She is completely focused. And the results she's gotten from saying no to everything else is she is just recognized, and rightly so, as being an incredible athlete.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that, speaking of like sports and athletics, I mean, that's like the formula for becoming a like kind of one of like a superstar, right? Is that you become really good at your sport, at your craft. And then when you do that, then, yeah, sure, maybe you don't graduate high school, whatever, because now you can just pay people to do stuff. I mean, you know enough, you have enough reach and leverage, you can break through into other areas and other fields and do things with other people that you would not have done normally because you focused and achieved a level of success in one area. So that's another way to go, is that hyper focused path.
And we can ask ourselves, how good would Ed Latimore's YouTube channel be? And the answer is good. I would watch it, but would it be great? Would it get you 100,000 views per month to your website? If you can be good in one area but great in another, or rather, you can be good in 3 areas but great in one. And even as you look at your life, you're talking about you're going for being good at Spanish, you're talking about being good at chess. But for anyone who's listened to this interview so far, what's the one thing Ed is doing to be great at? Well, it's writing. You said it very clearly.
Yeah.
And you specifically said you're not doing all these other things. And so it's like, if I'm thinking about how to draw out your life in terms of what I understand about your professional, your the things you're trying to master. And we have the one thing at the top, writing, and we have a few subsets that are not unrelated. You have Spanish, you have your chess, you have maybe some physics stuff, but you have the one thing. And so if we're asking, what's Ed Latimore doing in 2022? The answer is writing.
Yeah, a lot of writing.
How do we know he's winning? Well, we have 2 metrics, 3 metrics, really. 2 we can see, 1 we can't see. Or rather, we can see your Twitter follower count skyrocket. Okay, so that's one measure of good writing. And the metrics we can't see is monthly site visitors and revenue from writing. There we go. But you can see all 3. So you can you can actually tell in the same way as if you're fighting, like me getting smoked by Derek 100 out of 100 times. I can see, wow, Derek is still a much better dagger fighter than I am. Okay, every time. But you're getting this feedback about this one thing. So you know, am I advancing or not? And then you also said at the start of this call, you said you're following the people who have done the things to get to where you want to go. So you can say, okay, Bob over here did things this way, and Bob got to these results, and I'm working on the same path. How far along am I on the path? So you can get this feedback, even though the Ed Latimore brand is its own thing, your own style, but you're still walking this path where you're getting feedback. So you know, are you actually on the path, just as if you were in the ring, and you know whether you're just won or lost.
Yeah, that's a very, very poignant observation. I completely agree. You know, and you know, processes are difficult for people to focus on because you don't really know if you're doing the right thing until you have an outcome, and when you're focusing on the process, you're not really ever supposed to care about the outcome either. Well, I don't think that's 100% true. I think you're supposed to care, but it should not consume you. Like if I go through this whole year and I follow my path and my intense writing, and I'm no closer to my goal. Like it's okay to not make it, right? But what's not okay is not being any closer, right? You know, regressing. Like I get to the end of the year and my traffic is tanked or something, or I'm like in the negative, and my income, like, how did that even happen? I don't even like it. It doesn't even cost anything for me to make products. How did that happen, right? Be like, okay. Got to figure out, you know, kind of what's going on. But instead, you know, we stick to this process, we double down, we focus. And really one of my mentalities is it takes as long as it takes. Now, with that said, you know, now I'm learning the power of urgency because I decided to put a time. Decided to put a time on my goals. I mean, I'm trying to accomplish even more things, and that is not something that it never just happens, right? It happens with concentrated effort, and never just happens faster. It happens with really concentrated effort when it happens faster. You know,
you remind me of when I started podcasting. I thought, I know I'm going to suck when I start, and my goal is by the end of 100 episodes, don't suck so much. And specifically, it's not a traffic goal. Yeah, it's not a traffic goal. It's not a money goal. The goal is the craft of the interview. That there's 100% chance that if I go back and I listen to the first 5 episodes, I will cry, right? 100% chance. So all I have to do for the first 100 episodes is pay attention to creating a really good experience that people, when they listen, they walk away with something specific they can do and they feel elevated, and like get good at that, because I know I know that talking and sharing something in the audio but not video format, like that's its own thing, and it doesn't matter how good I think I am at it. I know I will get better by doing it 100 times. And then I thought, okay, when I get to 100, then I'll look at, okay, what's the goal for the next 100 episodes? But in front of me, I have John Lee Dumas. He's over 3,000 episodes. Podcaster's Paradise is his inner circle, where that man is focused. Anyone thinks about JLD, what does JLD do? Well, he's a podcaster.
Yep.
Who does he interview? He interviews entrepreneurs. And he breaks down how they do what they do so that you can go and do some of the same things. Everyone knows what JLD does. He's so focused. Well, what does Ed Latimore do? Well, he writes. And if you follow Ed at all, what do you do? Well, he writes about how to basically make yourself better, be a better human. And he's also not talking about current events. That's what you get when you read Engagement is the New Cocaine, or you read any of your stuff, you follow your Twitter account. Like, yeah, there's this field. You read Ed's stuff and you're like, okay, I'm going to be a bit better human today because I read this tweet. And I'm going to think about it. I'm going to let it, I might tell a friend about it. I'm going to let it percolate in my soul for a bit. Not everything you write, but a substantial number of things you write. Like, oh, wow, if I applied those, 100 characters that I just wrote to this particular problem I'm facing in my life right now, maybe I could be a bit kinder of a human to myself or to someone else. So this power of focus and this ability to not care about that which you're not tracking, which you're not bothered by your lack of YouTube views on the channel you don't have.
Yeah,
which for so many of us, especially in my industry,
what's funny, man, I got I got like 998 subscribers somehow. Well, that's because I did make some videos actually. So it's not like I was just doing nothing. So I gotta be honest with that.
Well, but you get these secondary things just for free by power of focus. My friend Sarah Prout, her Facebook is her main focus, so she has, last I checked, 800 or 900,000 people on Facebook. But then on her places where she doesn't pay as much attention, like Twitter, Instagram, everywhere else, yeah, she has about 10% of that. She has like 80 or 90,000 people on Twitter just because, that's not her thing. Facebook's her thing. So you end up, other people want to join in the party a little bit. Well, so let me ask you this, Ed. For someone who is, they buy your idea that you should focus. They buy your idea that they should ignore that which does not matter. And they're looking at their 2022 and they're looking at, there's 10 different big opportunities. And they're trying to figure out, I have 10 opportunities. How do I focus on only 2 or 1? How do I figure out what to say no to? What's a process they can follow to figure out either what to say yes to or what to say no to make 2022 a better year?
Focus on the one that's going to be the most impactful and like really get you closest to your goal. So I think at the start of this, when we were talking about kind of goals, like, okay, I know that I know what I like to have my income goal be, right? So I said, what's the fastest way to get there? Of the 10 things I'm picking, I picked the one that's going to make the biggest impact. And it might not be immediate. Like I sincerely believe that the biggest impact I'll have and help me reach is to grow, or is one to learn the market and get my money in the market. 2, to increase overall my passive cash flow, and in general my income, and then to publish a book in the fiction category and to get an agent for my nonfiction book, right? So everything that centers around those are the most significant, I know what my most significant tasks are. I know what I'm studying. I know what I'm doing. I'm not studying. I know what I'm working on. Like I have it out, set out. Those are my most significant tasks. Those are like, if I'm choosing between, we'll make it even kind of difficult because it's easy to go, oh, should I go to the movies or do this? No, that's pretty obvious, right? But if I'm looking at 2 things and I can do a guest interview for somebody where I write, oh, I hate those. And I can not do it. I'm gonna and I cannot do it and instead focus on finishing a project or promote something. I'm probably gonna go, okay, what's the rating of this site? Is it worth my time to write this? Nope. I'll politely decline because it's not, me just sitting here talking. I got to sit and think and produce really good content for you. And that's going to take a lot of energy and time when I could be producing that same content for myself, right? For my
Yep.
site to help me. So that's pretty easy. Or if two different people want to partner, and one guy is only offering is his affiliate commission works out. I forget the percentage works out to be $100, and the other guy's works out to be 200. Okay, so it seems obvious that I should take the 200, but the guy that takes 200, it's not really my wheelhouse. The 100 though, I can really sell and move that. It makes sense. It's aligned with everything I do, and any content I create, I can use for my site. Well, now I'm looking at how it fits in with all of my other goals, not just the income one, and I go with the $100 one because ultimately I'll make more and do more, and it feeds more to the goal. It's not it initially it's as simple as it does this help me have get to where I'm trying to get to faster. On the next level, you have to go, okay, does this take away from me getting somewhere else related to my goals? Okay. And sometimes there's that opportunity cost trade off, and you want to avoid that. You want to make the maximum choice or the most optimal choice. And the best way to do that, a lot of times you just have to think and go, okay, does this help me get to where I'm going? Okay, check. Does this cost one of my other goals? And if it does, by how much? And then you have to determine, how much is enough for you. But I think those two guiding metrics will really make a difference and help you figure out the best place to put your energy in 2022.
That's beautiful. And I know you're not going to write it just yet, but I'm excited about your book on focus, because your ability to focus and then meet some kind of significant milestone in a reasonable time frame across multiple domains. It's interesting because you've demonstrated that your process, your approach to life, is successful across multiple domains. It's one thing if someone gets their black belt in jiu-jitsu and then their black belt in karate, then their black belt in MMA. Okay, great. They're a serious fighter. That's wonderful. That matters. But if they for to do it in boxing and then in getting physics and then writing and across a variety of domains, your process is more than just one domain. And I think it's part of why I love reading your stuff so much is that you've not limited yourself, even as you're focused on I'm a writer. You're not limiting yourself to that's not only, you're not only a writer.
Yeah, I try not to. I mean, I try to do what I enjoy and make money that way. I'm very fortunate, perhaps a little spoiled, and sometimes this gets in the way of my overall work ethic. I forget that not everyone that you don't have to be happy, and I think I'm challenged, and that's good. That's way better than being happy because overcoming challenges, that is where I believe you find the greatest happiness. And so maybe that's what's up. I perceive my enjoyment as really it is. I'm overcoming this challenge. That's what's happened. So
Satisfaction over pleasure.
yeah,
Yet
pretty much.
satisfaction and pleasure are very different things, but we confuse them all the time. And some projects and tasks and activities are very pleasurable but not satisfying. Like last night, I was in bed before 8 p.m. And let me tell you, Ed, so satisfying.
Oh, there you
To actually
go.
but I greatly enjoy, and I have to stop myself from watching TV, and I don't keep an Xbox connected to anything because if I did, I every few years I go on a 3-day video game binge. And then when I'm done binging, because I'm disgusted with myself for wasting 3 days of my life, I unplug everything and I put it away. And people laugh at this. So I was at my wife's place, her family home, and I was talking to her cousin about video games, and she, for the first time, hears me talking at length about. I think we're geeking out about Fallout 3, and she's just looking at me like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Yeah, you don't see me play video games because I don't, because I have to stop myself because that's not who I want to be. It's not because I don't want to play them." Very pleasurable, but not satisfying.
You have to have control. Yeah, it's that's pretty much I think the challenge that a lot of people face is that they want to be What's the best way to put this? They want to hold on to the past and what is enjoyable, the things from their childhood, but they don't want to move in. But they also want the perks of being an adult. There you go. They want the freedom of being a child, but the perks of being an adult. And it's like you don't really get that. You have to pick one.
And let go of whatever is not going to serve you.
Yep.
Well, I hope folks you've enjoyed this incredible way to start your year. And I'm just going to read from Ed's website here about the big thing that Ed does, where Ed, you write, learn how to control your mind, body, and emotions with my Stoic Street Smarts newsletter. And that's available, folks, at Latimore.com, EDLATIMORE.com. And as you say on your website, Ed, I want a weekly dose of self-improvement content. And we don't know what all you're going to come up with in 2022, but there's 100% chance that I'll be enjoying it, and I will in some way better myself and better my focus, and just get more control. Like, there's always more opportunity to do better at choosing the path that is satisfying, not just that is pleasurable.
There's always more.
There's always more. And then it's Ed Latimore on Twitter, spelled the same way. And Ed, let's wrap up with one last thing, which is, of all of your products that you have right now, for someone who's really resonated with the ideas you've shared in this talk, what of your many things you currently sell, not that you won't have even better things in the future, but what book or what interview or where would you point somebody to really dig into these ideas more?
If you want to write better, man, I have my Twitter growth engine pack, and that's about writing on Twitter, but it's applicable to other areas of writing. I actually probably need to like rebrand that pretty soon and make it a general writing guide. But it's working and selling, so I don't. That's the thing. Once you kind of figure out what works, then you're like, do I really want to change this? Or what do I get out of changing it?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the Twitter growth pack, folks. It's edlatimore.com. Just click on shop to go grab that. That is what kept me company during 75 hard, during bazillion hours of rowing. And I would just watch one each day when I was rowing for 45 minutes. And that, I'm sure I didn't capture as much of those ideas as I would if I just watched and was taking notes. But just having you in the background, Ed, talking about your perspective every morning, and then going off to work, having the perspective of how Ed thinks about style of writing or personas or anything you have in all that course, for getting my head on right as I went about to go create whatever content I was creating that day. I found it really useful. So folks, I think you will not go wrong if you're serious about writing, to go grab that at edlatimore.com. Ed, thank you so much for starting off our year and the 2022 season of Red Beard Radio.
Hey, thanks.